I came home soaked that night, not just wet from the rain, but tired all the way into my bones. 10 hours straight at the auto shop and not a single one of them went easy. We did back-to-back jobs, a no-show intern, and the kind of customers who look over your shoulder while you're elbow deep in engine grease, asking, "Is it almost done?" Like that's going to speed anything up. By the time I left, the sky had cracked wide open. Heavy rain. Cold, biting wind. Traffic snarled like it had something personal against me. All I could think about on the drive back was how good it would feel to walk into a warm house, maybe eat the pasta bake I prepped that morning, and spend a quiet night with my wife. That wasn't too much to ask. Just something simple. Comfortable. Familiar. But the moment I stepped through the front door, I knew something was off. You know how sometimes the air in a room just feels wrong? Like it's holding its breath? That's what it was like. Silent. Stale. The kind of quiet that doesn't soothe, it warns. I dropped my keys into the dish by the door, shrugged off my jacket, still dripping, and kicked off my boots. Jenna didn't greet me. No, "Hey babe." No glance up. Nothing. Just her sitting in the dark, curled up on the couch, eyes locked on her phone screen. The only light in the room came from that little rectangle in her hand, casting a glow over her face and painting shadows on the wall behind her. It felt distant. Like she wasn't just ignoring me, but somewhere else entirely. Still, I tried. "Hey," I said, my voice low, tired. "You okay?" She didn't look up right away. Just kept scrolling, tapping, whatever she was doing, too focused on it. Then, all at once, her thumb darted across the screen and the light vanished. She set the phone face down on the couch cushion beside her like it had burned her. "Fine," she said, finally turning her head slightly. "Why?" "No reason." I walked past her toward the kitchen. I was starving, and I figured maybe she'd eaten already. But when I lifted the lid on the pot I left on the stove that morning, the one with the pasta she'd said she was craving, it hadn't been touched. Not even stirred. Still sealed in its own quiet little tomb of aluminum foil and disinterest. That was when it really clicked. The cold food. The cold room. The cold look on her face. Something was seriously wrong. When I turned back to face her, that's when I caught it. Her phone, still lit up from whatever she thought she'd hidden, had flashed a message. Just a quick preview. A name. A few words. That's all it took. "Trevor, last night was, wow. Still thinking about it. You ever feel like your brain short-circuits?" That's what happened. I stood there in the doorway, hands still damp from the cold, heart suddenly pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Every part of me wanted to believe I had read it wrong. That my tired eyes were playing tricks on me. But no. I saw it. Plain as day. Suggestive. An asterisk, mate. Way too familiar. And absolutely, without question, not a message you send to a married woman, not unless something's already happened. I didn't say anything at first. Just stared at her. Waiting. She noticed. She always noticed. What, she asked, like I was the one acting weird. "Who's Trevor?" I asked quietly, keeping my voice as steady as I could. That's when everything flipped. Her expression hardened instantly, like a switch had flipped. No guilt. No confusion. Just irritation. Like I had just accused her of something unfair when I'd only asked a question. "Wow," she said, crossing her arms. "Really? That's what we're doing now." I just saw a message. He said something about Jesus, Lucas. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're always watching. Always assuming. It's exhausting. I wasn't assuming anything, I replied, trying to keep calm. But that message wasn't exactly subtle. She laughed sharp and bitter. "You know what's not subtle? The way you've checked out of this relationship for months. You work late, come home smelling like grease, barely say a word to me, and then this is the conversation you want to have." That hit me sideways. I didn't know how to respond. I just blinked, stunned, while she kept going. "You never ask how I'm doing. You never listen when I try to talk. You make all the decisions, what we eat, when we see people, how we spend money. And now you're surprised I get messages from someone who actually pays attention to me." I was floored. It was like I had walked into the middle of a fight I didn't even know we were having. "You're deflecting," I said quietly. "This isn't about pasta or work hours or money. It's about that message." She leaned forward then, her voice lower but full of venom. "No, Lucas. This is about you never making space for me to breathe. You keep score. You act like I'm some kind of project you have to manage. I can't even talk to a friend without you assuming the worst. Is Trevor just a friend?" She didn't answer. "Not really." Just shrugged. "Does it matter?" she said finally. "You've already made up your mind." Then came the real gut punch. "If you don't trust me, maybe we need some space. Maybe you should think about what it's like to be in a relationship where you feel judged all the time." That was it. An ultimatum. No apology. No explanation. Just a subtle threat wrapped in emotional blame-shifting. And the wild part? She was calm. Like this whole conversation had already happened in her head. Like she was ready for it, had practiced it. And me? I was caught flat-footed. Exhausted. Stunned. And suddenly silent. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I didn't accuse. I just nodded. Okay, I said. And then I went upstairs, peeled off my wet clothes, and got into the shower. I stood there under the water long enough for my skin to wrinkle, but it didn't matter. My mind was still stuck back in that living room, with her words echoing off the walls. You never trust me. You make all the decisions. Maybe we need space. It wasn't what she said that hurt the most. It was the fact that she never once denied what I saw. She never even tried. Sleep didn't come easy that night. I laid in bed, eyes fixed on the ceiling, every breath heavy, every second dragging out like it was trying to punish me. Jenna was asleep or pretending to be turned away from me, curled up under the covers like nothing had happened. Like we hadn't just peeled open the first layer of something rotten. But my brain wouldn't let it go. That message. That name. The way she turned it around like I was the villain for noticing. It all kept replaying in my mind, over and over again, until every detail that once felt harmless now sat heavy with implication. And that's when the floodgates opened. That's when I started remembering things, small things at first. Little shifts in her routine that didn't mean much in the moment but, in hindsight, felt loud. She used to leave her phone on the kitchen counter when she showered or changed. Now it was always on her, tucked into her back pocket, under her pillow, or in her hand. Always face down. Always locked with that same fingerprint she once offered to share with me. I trust you, she had said once, months ago, when we were still soft with each other. You can open it anytime. But I never did. I didn't feel the need to. Now I was wondering why she'd ever said it in the first place. Then there were the calls. She started taking them in the bathroom, door locked. At first I thought it was work, some project or coworker that required focus. She claimed it was just easier with the fan on to block out noise. But more and more I noticed her voice was always low. Like she was whispering into the mirror. Like she didn't want to be overheard. Once I knocked on the door and asked her something simple, whether she'd seen my belt, and she didn't answer. Just silence. Then 5 seconds later, the toilet flushed. Another 10 seconds and she opened the door, startled, holding her phone at her side like a bar of soap she'd forgotten to put down. And I told myself I was being dramatic. I convinced myself it was stress. That maybe she was overwhelmed. Or maybe she was trying to surprise me with something, planning a vacation or talking to a therapist or... I don't know. I gave her every benefit of the doubt. Even when she started leaving earlier on Sundays, way earlier than she used to. At first, she said she joined a leadership team at the community center. Then it was a mentorship program. Then it was yoga. The reasons kept changing and her answers came faster, like she was always ready for the question. But what stuck with me wasn't what she said. It was the fact that she always came back glowing. Not sweaty. Not stressed. Just glowing. Her face a little flushed, like she'd been laughing. Like someone had made her feel seen. And her scent had changed too. It used to be the soft lavender and vanilla thing, her go-to since college. But lately there was something different. Something more, daring. Musky. Like it belonged to someone trying to be noticed, not just comfortable. I asked her about it once and she shrugged. It was a gift from a friend at work, she'd said. I thought I'd try something new. Try something new. She was full of those phrases lately. It's nothing, or you're reading into it, or don't make it weird. I even started noticing how she'd become defensive about being invited places. When I offered to come to her Sunday group just to support her, she stiffened. It's not really your thing, she said. You'd hate it. But I don't even know what it is. Exactly. That was the whole exchange. End of discussion. It felt like a door slamming shut. Another memory surfaced, how she'd gotten more polished. Her wardrobe shifted slowly but noticeably. New dresses, fitted jeans, blouses that showed off her shoulders, lips a little redder than usual, eyeliner sharper. At first, I loved it. She looked great. But eventually, I noticed the pattern. She didn't dress like that when we went out. She saved it for work. Or her retreat weekends. Or these new social circles I wasn't part of. And when I told her she looked amazing, she'd smile, polite, quick, and say thanks like it was a reflex. Not a moment. Not something shared between us. The space between us grew wider, and I hadn't even noticed it happening. That's what messed with me the most. It was like being in a house where a wall slowly moves inch by inch every night, and one morning you wake up and realize you're not even in the same room anymore. I think I ignored it because it was easier than facing what those changes really meant. But now, lying in bed with the sound of the rain still echoing in the gutter outside, all those little red flags became one giant siren in my head. And I started asking myself the question I'd been too scared to ask for weeks. Was I being lied to? I hated that I even had to ask it. I hated how that one message from Trevor had rearranged everything I thought I understood. But it had. There was no going back to blind trust. Not after seeing how quick she was to gaslight me, to make me feel like I was the one who crossed a line just by asking a question. It's a strange kind of manipulation when someone gets so good at flipping the script that you start doubting your own instincts. I'd seen it happen to friends before. I'd watched it play out in TV dramas. But I never thought I'd be the guy lying awake in bed questioning his own memory. And maybe the worst part was, a piece of me still wanted to believe her. Still wanted to find some logical explanation that would undo the knot in my stomach. I rolled over and looked at her silhouette, lit dimly by the light slipping through the curtains. Her breathing was slow and even. Peaceful. Too peaceful. My thoughts drifted to the way she spoke to me lately, measured, guarded. She used to laugh at my dumb jokes. Now she barely reacted. She used to grab my hand under the table at restaurants like it was a secret between us. That hadn't happened in months. Every bit of physical affection lately had been functional. Like checking off a box. A peck before bed. A shoulder rub when I looked too tense. But never passion. Never spontaneity. I started to think, was she just going through the motions until she figured out her next move? And then the guilt would rush in. Because I didn't want to be that guy, the one who jumps to conclusions, who plays detective in his own marriage, who second-guesses every damn smile. But the clues were stacking up too fast to ignore. It wasn't just the phone or the messages. It was the way she talked to me. Or didn't. It was how she disappeared into her day and reappeared only in fragments. It was the way our home didn't feel like ours anymore. Just a place we shared. Like two tenants occupying the same square footage with nothing but habit holding us together. And maybe the hardest thing to admit to myself, lying there in the dark, was that I had known. On some level, deep down, I had known something was wrong. But I let it slide. I gave excuses. I told myself I was imagining things because I didn't want to believe the alternative. I didn't want to believe the woman I married, the one who used to make coffee for me every morning with a smile, who once cried when I surprised her with a weekend trip to the coast, who used to call me love instead of Luke, was drifting into someone else's orbit. But now I couldn't unsee it. And for the first time since we said I do, I felt alone in my own marriage. It was around the middle of the week when Jenna told me she'd be out of town for a few days. A leadership retreat, she said casually over coffee, stirring almond milk into her mug without making eye contact. It's a Friday through Sunday thing. Pretty low-key. I'll be back Sunday night. I just nodded. I didn't ask where it was or who else was going. I didn't even ask what hotel she'd be staying in. Not because I wasn't curious, God, I was, but because I wanted to see what she'd volunteer. What she'd offer without being prompted. She didn't offer much. No itinerary. No printed agenda pinned to the fridge like she used to do for trips. Just vague answers, deflected questions, and a kiss on the cheek before she left the house the next morning, suitcase rolling behind her like a leash to a different life. Something about it all felt flimsy. Too smooth. Like it had been rehearsed. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I called out of work. Told my boss I needed a few personal days. He didn't ask questions. I'd never missed a shift in 6 years, and frankly, I think he was just surprised I was finally taking time for myself. What I didn't tell him was that I wasn't staying home to rest. I packed an overnight bag, topped off the gas tank, and drove to the city Jenna had casually name-dropped 2 days prior. It wasn't far, just under 2 hours. Long enough to feel like a getaway. Close enough to make you believe it was harmless. I didn't have an exact address, so I trusted my instincts. Boutique hotel. Downtown. Upscale, but not flashy. Jenna always went for that middle ground, stylish, not over the top. I checked into a modest place nearby under a different name. No need to be recognized. No need for mistakes. That first day was just recon. I wandered through the blocks around the square, watched hotel lobbies from shaded benches, and studied couples who walked in and out. I told myself I didn't know what I was looking for. But I did. It wasn't until Friday night, around 9 p.m., that I saw her. She stepped out of a cab on the corner of 7th and Ashton, dressed in that rust-colored coat I'd given her for her birthday 2 years ago. Her hair was loose around her shoulders, styled with more intention than I'd seen in months. She was smiling. Not just the kind of polite smile you give to strangers. It was a warm, full-body kind of smile, the one she used to give me when we had something to look forward to. The kind that made me feel like I was the only person in the world who mattered. Only now, it wasn't for me. It was for him. Trevor. I didn't recognize him right away, but when he stepped out of the car behind her, the puzzle snapped together. Same guy from the phone message. Tall. Sharp-looking. Casual confidence in the way he walked, like this wasn't new. Like this had been happening. They didn't rush. No urgency. No guilt. Just two people moving through a city they thought would protect their secret. They walked close, arms brushing, and I followed from across the street, keeping to the shadows like some kind of ghost. My heart was thudding in my chest so loudly I was sure someone could hear it. They stopped outside the hotel's sliding doors. Talked for a moment. Laughed about something. And then right there, under the glow of the awning lights, he leaned in. And she let him. No hesitation. No glancing over her shoulder. They kissed like it was routine. Not the clumsy kind of kiss that comes from nerves. This was familiar. Practiced. Made in a way you don't fake. I stood completely still, my hands frozen around the camera I'd borrowed from a buddy who worked in real estate. He'd lent it to me without asking questions, just said, bring it back Monday, like it was nothing. I lifted the lens slowly and pressed the shutter. Click. Then again. Click. Each *T felt like a nail driven into something sacred. I didn't confront them. Didn't storm the lobby or throw accusations into the night air. I just watched as they disappeared inside together, his hand resting comfortably on her lower back like he belonged there. It wasn't just betrayal. It was familiarity. This wasn't a fling. This wasn't some drunken mistake. It was coordinated. Comfortable. Planned. I walked back to my car, locked myself inside, and sat there in silence for what must have been an hour. The city buzzed around me, traffic, laughter, music from a rooftop bar somewhere nearby, but it all felt muffled. Distant. Like I'd stepped outside of my own life and into someone else's nightmare. I stared at the photos on the camera screen. Still frames of a world I didn't recognize. Her smiling. Him reaching for her hand. Their silhouettes crossing the marble lobby together. There was a time when I would have given anything to be wrong. When I would have begged the universe to prove my instincts were lying to me. But not now. Now all I felt was clarity. Cold. Sharp. Absolute. The kind of clarity that doesn't break you but hardens something inside you. I checked into my room without speaking to anyone. Closed the curtains. Turned off my phone. And laid on the bed staring at the ceiling just like I had the night she got that message. Only this time I didn't have to wonder anymore. I knew. I knew everything I needed to know. And strangely, there was some comfort in that. No more guessing. No more gaslighting. No more second-guessing myself every time she looked at her phone or laughed at a text from someone she barely talked to. No more doubt. The photos didn't lie. The timestamp didn't lie. The way she looked at him didn't lie. Whatever excuses she might throw at me when she got home, stress, confusion, loneliness, none of it would matter. Not anymore. She'd made her choice. Out in the open. In plain view. She just didn't know yet that I'd seen it. That was the part that gave me pause. The silence that followed the clarity. Because knowing wasn't the end, it was the beginning of something else entirely. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't punch a wall or destroy something just to feel in control. I just sat with it. Let the reality settle over me like a weighted blanket filled with nails. And for the first time in weeks, I knew exactly what I was going to do next. Not out of revenge. Not even out of anger. But because when someone shows you who they are fully, undeniably, you can't look away anymore. You either accept it, or you leave. I didn't go home. I could have waited in the driveway with the photos pulled up on my phone, confronted her the moment she got out of the car, demanded answers she probably rehearsed months ago. But the thought of having that kind of conversation, of giving her the chance to spin it, twist it, cry her way through excuses, it made my skin crawl. I didn't want closure. I wanted space. Silence. Distance. So I vanished. Not in a dramatic way, no packed bags in the middle of the night or scrawled notes left on the kitchen counter. I just disappeared. I called my landlord, gave notice on the lease. Said I had a family emergency and needed to relocate immediately. Paid the penalty. No questions asked. I rerouted my hours at the shop. Told the owner I'd be working remote for a while, handling inventory, parts orders, supplier negotiations. He was surprised but didn't fight me on it. He said I'd earned the trust. I got a small, furnished place on the other side of town. Month-to-month lease. No traceable change of address, no forwarding mail. I even picked a new grocery store, new gym, new barber. Jenna had no idea where I'd gone. And that was exactly the point. I turned off my phone. Bought a burner just for work. Set up a new email, dropped my old socials. The kind of clean break that would look overboard to someone who hadn't been lied to for months. To me, it just felt necessary. When I left that hotel and started driving, I wasn't Lucas the husband anymore. I was Lucas the witness. And the man I used to be, the one who waited up for her, who doubted his own instincts just to keep the peace, he was already halfway gone by the time I pulled off the freeway. The first day of silence was the loudest. Her messages came fast, one after another. I watched them flood in from the screen of my old phone as it lay face up on a desk I wouldn't sit at again. Hey, where are you? Thought you'd be home by now. Lucas, I'm getting worried. Can you text me? Just let me know you're okay. We need to talk. If you're mad, that's fine. I just want to fix this. They kept coming. By evening, the tone shifted. Why are you doing this? Are you seriously ghosting me right now? What did I do to deserve this? You're being childish. Just pick up the phone. I didn't respond to a single one. I didn't need to. Every second she waited for me to reply was a second she sat in her own silence, finally experiencing what it was like to be kept in the dark. A mirror. That's what I had become. She left me wondering for months. Now she got to feel it. But this wasn't revenge. It wasn't cruelty. It was control. For the first time in months, maybe longer, I wasn't reacting, I was deciding. That first week, she sent over 40 texts. Called 22 times. Left 9 voicemails. I didn't listen to a single one. I didn't have to. She didn't know what I knew. And that terrified her. By the second week, the messages slowed. They were shorter. Sharper. If this is how you're going to act, then maybe we really do need a break. You're being ridiculous. Just talk to me. I don't even know what you're mad about. That one nearly made me laugh. I kept the camera card in a small safe in my new place. Labeled it with the date and time like it was evidence in a trial. Because it was. It was mine. Jenna had made her choices. She just hadn't realized how permanent they'd become. I didn't tell anyone where I'd gone. Not family, not friends. A few buddies from the shop texted to check in, and I gave vague replies about needing space. Most understood without asking. The guys who knew me best knew something was wrong. I spent that first week detoxing from her. No shared routines. No passive-aggressive small talk over dinner. No walking on eggshells in my own home. The silence was uncomfortable at first, but it was also clarifying. I started sleeping again. Ate when I was hungry instead of when she was ready. Went for walks just because I could. It wasn't healing, not yet. But it was the start of something quieter. Cleaner. 3 weeks passed before I heard from her again in a different way. I guess she got tired of waiting, or maybe she just cracked. Either way, she came home expecting me to be there. Maybe she thought I'd cooled off. That I'd walk in the door with flowers or tired eyes and say something like, let's talk. Instead, she found the evidence that she'd been replaced. She called that night. 10 times. I turned the old phone on just to watch it light up, voicemail after voicemail. Then came the final message. Who was at the house, Lucas? Whose perfume is in the bathroom? Whose boots are by the door? What the hell are you doing? I turned the phone off. She had questions now. Lots of them. And not a single one had anything to do with what she had done. She never once asked, did I hurt you? She never said, I'm sorry. Just accusation, confusion, desperation. And still, no honesty. She didn't know what I knew. But she did know I wasn't playing anymore. I imagined her walking into that house, expecting some dramatic standoff or long, tearful apology session. Instead, she found a wine glass in the sink with 2 sets of lipstick stains. A new toothbrush in the holder. A playlist she didn't recognize still playing softly from the Bluetooth speaker in the bedroom. None of it was real. But it didn't have to be. All it had to do was introduce doubt. Because that's what she had done to me. Day after day, she had made me question what was real. Made me feel paranoid, needy, unstable. Now it was her turn. The irony is, I wasn't seeing anyone. Not yet. I wasn't interested in filling the space she'd left, I just wanted to clear it. The boots by the door were from a thrift store. The perfume in the bathroom was a tester bottle I found in a clearance bin. The lipstick? Bought it at a DR* store, kissed the glass myself, wiped it once, then left it. I could have burned the house down metaphorically. Could have exposed everything, sent the photos to her friends, posted her betrayal for the world to see. But that's not who I am. I'm not interested in spectacle. I'm interested in silence. In her coming home to a version of me she couldn't predict. Couldn't guilt. Couldn't manage. I didn't need her to feel ashamed. I needed her to feel irrelevant. That was the part she wouldn't see coming. She thought if she just kept the story clean enough, the details vague enough, the questions unanswered long enough, she could keep me under control. But people like Jenna, they don't know what to do when you stop playing the game. They rely on chaos to hide their lies. And I'd removed all of it. Just gone. Clean. Vanished. She tried again that weekend. More calls. One long email titled "Let's Be Honest" that I didn't open. She started reaching out to mutual friends, fishing for information, pretending to be worried. I knew better. She wasn't looking for me. She was looking for the version of herself that existed when I was still around to protect her from consequences. But that version of me was dead the moment she kissed him in that parking lot. All that was left now was this. Quiet. Controlled. Undeniable. It started with an email. Not to Jenna. Not from me. Just to someone who mattered. A short, quiet message sent from an untraceable burner. No subject line. No explanation. Just 3 attachments, a set of photos, each time-stamped, each showing Jenna with Trevor in places she never told anyone she went. A kiss in the parking lot. A hand on his chest as they walked. Their bags disappearing together through a boutique hotel lobby. That was all it took. I didn't blast it on social media. Didn't leak it to her friends or her family. That would have been too loud, too obvious. Jenna always thrived in chaos, knew how to spin things when emotions were high. But she didn't know how to deal with quiet. So I made it quiet. The email went to her company's HR director, her direct supervisor, and one member of the board I found mentioned in a press release congratulating her on a recent promotion. I figured if you're going to build a career on reputation and personal branding, it's only fair that the people who bought into that image get to see the truth. No captions. No context. Just clarity. I never followed up. Never sent a second message. Never tried to gauge their reaction. I didn't need to. I already knew what kind of environment she worked in, buttoned up, corporate, image-obsessed. The kind of place where whispers spread faster than wildfire and a single dent in the armor could collapse an entire tower. The fallout didn't take long. By Tuesday, her LinkedIn status changed from director to nothing at all. By Thursday, her work phone stopped ringing. Her name disappeared from the company's internal site. The little banner at the top of her bio page, the one that used to read strategic, driven, inspirational, was replaced with a 404 error. Gone. I didn't celebrate. There was nothing to celebrate. This wasn't revenge. It wasn't justice. It was simply the truth returned to sender. I didn't check the aftermath in real time, but pieces started to trickle back through the cracks. A friend of a friend mentioned that Jenna was taking time away from work. Someone else, a former coworker of hers, texted me out of nowhere just to say, "I'm sorry, man." I had no idea. Apparently, the emails had hit hard. The board had called an emergency meeting. There was concern over conduct, image, internal ethics. Jenna had always walked a tightrope between ambition and attention. The second the photos surfaced, the rope snapped. And just like that, the persona she'd crafted, polished, poised, untouchable, crumbled. No press release. No official statement. Just silence, which to her was the loudest punishment of all. I didn't respond to the people who reached out. I didn't answer their questions. I didn't correct the stories floating around. I just let the narrative take shape on its own. Whatever version they came up with was fine by me. At least now it wasn't my silence being *p***nized. Meanwhile, Jenna was unraveling. She tried to act normal at first. Or at least, that's what I gathered. Still posted the occasional filtered brunch photo. Still shared vague inspirational quotes like, "Sometimes the universe clears your path so you can finally walk it." But the comments were quieter now. The likes fewer. The validation gone. And then, like clockwork, she tried to reach out again. "Lucas, I know what you did. We need to talk. You went too far. I could lose everything. Please. I just want to fix this." That last one almost made me laugh. Fix this. Like it was a broken cabinet door or a leaky pipe. Something she could tighten and patch up with a few half apologies and a nervous smile. But there was nothing to fix. Not anymore. She hadn't just lied to me. She'd built an entire scaffolding of deceit, and now the weight of her own choices had finally snapped it in half. I didn't reply. Not because I didn't have anything to say, but because sometimes silence is the only thing loud enough to be heard. I heard through the grapevine that her mentor, the one who had championed her through her last promotion, stopped returning her calls. That meetings she used to run were now helmed by someone else. That a formal investigation had been launched quietly behind closed doors. No one needed my name to be involved. The pictures were the proof. They did what words never could. They told the truth. Jenna disappeared from social media shortly after. Accounts deactivated. Comments wiped clean. Like if she scrubbed the platforms, maybe the rest of her mistakes would follow. But the damage had already been done. And that's the thing about carefully curated lives: when they fall apart, they don't shatter like glass. They disintegrate. Slowly. Pieces flaking away until what's left doesn't even resemble the person you thought you were trying to be. I imagine she sat in her house in the days that followed, watching the walls close in. I imagine she checked her inbox every hour, waiting for someone to validate her. Waiting for someone to say it was all a misunderstanding. That she was still the golden girl. But no one came. No one answered. The walls didn't cave in because of me. They caved in because they were hollow all along. I didn't have to raise my voice. I didn't have to confront her. All I did was remove myself from the lie. And when the lie lost its audience, it couldn't hold itself up anymore. There's a kind of quiet justice in that. No explosion. No spectacle. Just gravity doing its work. The truth catching up. I think that's what stung her the most. That I didn't scream. That I didn't beg. That I didn't try to negotiate some kind of compromise. I simply left. And in doing so, I took with me the only thing that gave her story structure. Me. I had been the baseline. The one who showed up. Paid bills. Made dinner. Took photos of her at events. Supported the moves. Endured the moods. I had been the foundation. And she built a lie on top of it. So when I stepped out from underneath that weight, when I finally let her hold up her own world without me there to prop it up, she couldn't. The collapse was never loud. It was quiet. Slow. I imagine her now, sitting in the same kitchen where we used to laugh about nothing, staring at her phone, waiting for a text that isn't coming. Her career stalled. Her reputation cracked. Her future hazy. Maybe she's angry. Maybe she's sad. But more than anything, I bet she's confused. Because people like Jenna don't believe consequences are real until they hit them in the chest. And by the time they realize it's not a threat, it's a result, it's already too late. Weeks passed before Jenna found me. I don't know how she did it. Maybe someone slipped. Maybe she guessed. But one evening I opened my door and there she was, hollow-eyed, deflated, holding a tote bag like it was the only thing left in her life. She didn't cry. Didn't yell. She just asked, "Can I come in?" I let her. But this wasn't a reunion. It was a courtroom. I laid the terms out calm and clear. Separate rooms, full transparency, access to everything, her phone, her accounts, her schedule. No physical contact. No in asterisk Macy. No trust without proof. She agreed to all of it. Not because she was forgiven, but because the power had shifted. She was on probation in a relationship she no longer owned. 6 months later, Jenna left divorce papers on the table. No drama. No speech. Just a pen. I didn't touch them. Not that day. The next morning, I invited her to the backyard. We lit the papers on fire and watched them burn. We weren't reconciling. We were erasing the version of us that no longer made sense. She had changed. Subdued. Respectful of boundaries. But I had changed more. I didn't need her anymore. Didn't fear losing her. If something new was going to begin, it would be on my terms. And for the first time, I was the one choosing whether she stayed.